My daughter Emily, with a scornful smile, said, "You're not coming with us to Hawaii," her husband David added. "You're too poor to pay for the ticket." I smiled and said nothing, because I knew I had already booked a flight to Hawaii on a private jet. When they found out, their reaction was worth every dollar. You wouldn't believe what they did. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you are listening in the comments. You're not coming with us to Hawaii. Emily's voice cut through the quiet dining room like a blade, her fork suspended halfway to her mouth. The scratched wooden table suddenly felt enormous between us, every worn groove a canyon of silence. I set down my coffee cup, the ceramic clicking against the mismatched saucer. I just thought, Dad, seriously. She rolled her eyes. That same dismissive gesture I'd seen 1,000 times since she was 12. This is a family vacation. David's parents are already coming, and we can't afford to. You're too poor to pay for a ticket. David's words hit like a physical blow, his smug smile spreading across his face as he leaned back in his chair. The springs creaked under his weight, a sound that seemed to echo in the sudden stillness. Sophia looked up from her mashed potatoes, confusion clouding her 12-year-old features. "But why can't Grandpa come? He's family, too." "Because," Emily said, her voice taking on that sharp edge I'd learned to recognize. "The resort we're staying at costs $1,000 a night. The flights alone are $2,000 each. Grandpa can't afford that kind of money." I smiled, actually smiled, the corners of my mouth turned up naturally, surprising even myself. "I understand," I said quietly, watching David's satisfaction deepen. "You're right. I couldn't afford that." Jacob pushed his green beans around his plate, his small voice barely audible. "Maybe we could go camping instead. All together." Emily's laugh was brittle. "Honey, Daddy worked very hard to plan this trip. We're staying at the Grand Pacific Resort. There's going to be swimming pools everywhere and snorkeling and—" "It's expensive," David interrupted, his eyes fixed on me with something like malicious pleasure. "The kind of place where you need to dress properly for dinner, where people expect certain standards." The implication hung in the air like smoke. I glanced down at my flannel shirt, the one with the small tear near the pocket that I'd never bothered to repair, the one that suddenly felt like a uniform of failure. "We leave Thursday morning," Emily continued, her tone brightening as she turned away from me toward David. "First class to Honolulu, then the helicopter transfer to the resort. Your parents are going to love the spa treatments. The concierge already arranged everything," David added, reaching across the table to squeeze Emily's hand. "Private cabana by the ocean, sunset sailing, that wine tasting you wanted." I listened to them plan their paradise, their voices growing more animated with each expensive detail. The chandelier above us, a simple brass fixture I'd bought 20 years ago, cast long shadows across their faces as they talked about money like it was air, casual and infinite. "More coffee, Dad?" Emily asked, her tone suddenly artificially bright, as if she could paper over the wounds with politeness. "No, thank you." I stood, beginning to clear the plates. The sound of silverware against ceramic filled the space where conversation had died. "I think I'll just clean up." David's chair scraped against the hardwood floor as he pushed back from the table. "We should get going anyway. Early morning tomorrow, and I want to double-check our luggage restrictions." "Of course." I stacked the plates carefully, my hands steady despite the tremor I felt in my chest. "Have a wonderful time." Emily kissed my cheek, her lips cold and quick. "We'll send pictures," she said, already reaching for her purse. "Maybe next time we can plan something more reasonable." I watched them bundle the children into coats, listened to the sounds of zippers and goodbyes and car doors slamming. The engine of David's BMW purred to life, then faded into the distance, leaving me alone with the debris of dinner and the echo of their laughter. The house settled into silence around me, broken only by the steady tick of the kitchen clock. I stood at the window, watching their taillights disappear around the corner, and my smile finally faded. In its place, something else entirely began to take shape. They had no idea what they'd just done. The dishes clinked softly as I scraped the remnants of dinner into the trash, each movement automatic, meditative. Green beans that Jacob had pushed around his plate. Emily's half-eaten potatoes abandoned when the conversation turned to money. The simple meal that had somehow become a battlefield. I turned on the faucet, watching the water cascade over the plates, and that's when I saw it. A business card that had slipped from the kitchen drawer, floating face up in the sudsy water. Harrington Tech Solutions, my old company logo barely visible through the soap bubbles. I picked it up, water dripping from my fingers, and suddenly, I was back in that boardroom in 2019. The mahogany table that reflected our faces like a mirror. The handshake that transferred $20 million to my account. The way the buyer's eyes had lit up when he saw our user engagement numbers. "You built something special here. Brock," he'd said, the check sliding across the polished surface. "Revolutionary, really. This authentication software is going to change everything." I'd felt pride then, and relief. Years of 18-hour days, of Margaret bringing me coffee at midnight while I debugged code, of missing Emily's soccer games because we were chasing our next funding round. It had all been worth it in that moment. Margaret had been waiting in the parking garage, her face glowing with excitement. How did it go? "We did it," I'd whispered, holding her close. "We actually did it." But later that night, as we'd sat in our kitchen, this same kitchen, she'd grown quiet. "Brock," she'd said, stirring her tea thoughtfully. "Money changes people. It shows who they really are." "What do you mean?" "I mean, now you'll find out who your real friends are. Who really loves you for you. Not for what you can provide." She'd reached across the table, her fingers warm against mine. "Promise me something. Promise me you won't let them know right away. Let them show you their true hearts first." I'd laughed then, thought she was being overly cautious. But Margaret had been right about everything else in our 35 years together. Right about the business. Right about people. Right about Emily's growing obsession with appearances. 3 years since cancer took her. 3 years of watching our daughter drift further into a world where worth was measured in designer handbags and vacation destinations. 3 years of increasingly awkward dinners, where David's insults grew sharper, and Emily's disappointment in her failed father became more obvious. I'd hoped family would be different, hoped that blood would matter more than bank accounts. Tonight had been the final test, and Emily had failed spectacularly. I dried my hands on the old dish towel, the one with the faded roses that Margaret had loved, and walked to my small office. The laptop was ancient by today's standards, but it worked fine for checking my investments. I opened the browser, navigated to my portfolio dashboard, and watched the numbers load. $20.5 million, up from last month. The irony wasn't lost on me. Emily's entire Hawaiian vacation, the one I was too poor to afford, cost less than what my investments made in a single week. The private resort room that David had mentioned so smugly. I could buy the entire resort without touching my principal. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the screen. Margaret's voice echoed in my memory. "Money shows who they really are." Well, now I knew. The question was, what was I going to do about it? I closed the laptop and sat in the darkness, feeling something crystallize in my chest. Not just hurt anymore, but purpose. They thought they knew Brock Harrington, the failed widower in his modest house, struggling to make ends meet. They had no idea they'd just awakened Brock Harrington, the entrepreneur, the strategist, the man who'd built something from nothing and sold it for millions. Emily needed to learn that actions have consequences, that cruelty, especially to family, comes with a price. And David needed to learn that assumptions about people can be very, very dangerous. I stood up, suddenly energized. Margaret would have understood. She'd always believed in teaching through experience rather than words. Show, don't tell, she'd say when Emily was small and misbehaving. Well, it was time to show them something they'd never forget. The coffee maker gurgled to life at 6 a.m. Same as always. But nothing else about this morning felt routine. I stood at the kitchen counter, watching the dark liquid fill the pot, my mind already racing with possibilities. The newspaper lay unopened on the table. For the first time in years, I had more pressing matters than the morning headlines. I carried my mug to the small office, powered up the laptop, and opened my old address book. Names and numbers I hadn't called in years. Connections from my business days that I'd maintained out of habit rather than necessity. Today, those connections were about to become very valuable. First, reconnaissance. I opened Facebook, something I rarely bothered with, and navigated to Emily's profile. Her privacy settings were laughably loose. Every detail of her life displayed for the world to see. There it was. A photo from yesterday evening. Her and David grinning at some trendy restaurant. Champagne flutes raised in a toast. The caption read, "Celebrating our upcoming Hawaiian adventure. Can't wait for the Grand Pacific Resort. Blessed Hawaii. Family time." I scrolled through her recent posts, each one a breadcrumb in my investigation. Check-in at the airport showing their departure time. A photo of their flight confirmation. Gate numbers clearly visible. David's Instagram account even less secure, showing their hotel reservation details and planned activities. Amazing how much people shared online. In my business days, we'd spent thousands on competitive intelligence that was far less detailed than what my daughter posted for free. I opened a Word document and began taking notes. The old analytical mind clicking into gear. Flight American Airlines 847, departing Thursday, 7:15 a.m., arriving Honolulu 11:30 a.m. Local time, Hotel Grand Pacific Resort. Oceanfront Suite arriving May 15th, departing May 22nd. Activities: snorkeling tour Friday, spa day Saturday, sunset dinner cruise Sunday. The phone rang, startling me from my research. I almost ignored it. Then saw the name Marcus Johnson, former client and now VP of Operations at Exclusive Travel Partners. "Marcus," I answered, injecting warmth into my voice. "It's been too long." "Robert, I was just thinking about you. How are you holding up?" "Better than expected. Actually, listen, I need a favor. You still have contacts in the Hawaiian hospitality industry." "Of course. What do you need?" I explained that I was looking into a surprise visit to see family. Gave him the hotel details. Marcus's tone shifted to professional interest immediately. "The Grand Pacific, beautiful property, very exclusive. I can make some calls, see what I can find out about your family's arrangements. When are you thinking of visiting?" "Same week they're there. I'd like to coordinate something special." "Consider it done. I'll call you back within the hour." True to his word. Marcus called back 53 minutes later. "Your daughter's family is in the Napa Tower Suite 4012 Premium Oceanfront. They've booked several high-end excursions through the concierge." "Robert, I have to ask. This is a very expensive property. Are you sure you want to—" "Marcus, what would it cost to book the presidential suite in the same hotel, same dates?" Silence on the other end. Then, "Robert, the presidential suite at the Grand Pacific runs about $15,000 a night. For a week. You're looking at—" "I can handle it. What else?" "Well, If you're serious about making an impression, you'd need transportation. The family's taking the standard shuttle from the airport, but we could arrange helicopter transfer directly to the resort. Much more dramatic. Perfect. Set it up. After hanging up, I stared at my notes, the plan taking shape. But there was still one more element needed. The most important one. I needed to arrive in style, in a way that would make Emily and David understand exactly how wrong they'd been about my finances. I Googled private jet Seattle to Hawaii and started making calls. The first 3 companies treated me like I was wasting their time. My modest voice and simple questions didn't scream serious client. But the 4th company, Platinum Aviation, transferred me to a senior consultant who listened carefully to my requirements. Mr. Harrington, we can absolutely accommodate your travel needs. Our Citation X Plus can make the journey with 1 fuel stop. Or we have a Gulfstream G650 available. That can make the trip non-stop. The Citation would be $50,000 for the round trip. The Gulfstream, $70,000. I paused, letting the number sink in. Emily's entire vacation cost less than half of either option. I'd like to schedule a consultation, I said. Today, if possible. Of course. We're located at the Executive Aviation Terminal at SEA. Would 2 o'clock work? Perfect. I hung up and leaned back in my chair. Adrenaline coursing through my veins. This was really happening. After years of hiding my success, of living modestly while Emily and David grew increasingly dismissive, I was about to reveal the truth in the most dramatic way possible. Margaret would have laughed at the irony. You always were theatrical, she'd have said. But sometimes people need a grand gesture to understand what they've been missing. I closed the laptop and headed for the shower. It was time to remind myself how to be Brock Harrington, successful businessman, instead of Brock Harrington, disappointing father. The Grand Pacific Resort had no idea what was coming. The phone felt heavy in my hand as I dialed Platinum Aviation's number. No more research, no more planning. This was the moment the idea became reality. Platinum Aviation. This is Sarah speaking. Good morning, Sarah. This is Brock Harrington. I called earlier about private charter service to Hawaii. Of course. Mr. Harrington, I have your consultation scheduled for 2 o'clock today. Will you be able to make it? Actually, I was hoping we could move that up. I'm ready to book immediately. A pause. Certainly. I can have James meet with you at 11. He's our senior aviation consultant. I checked my watch. 9:47 a.m. Plenty of time to drive to the airport and handle this properly. Perfect. I'll be there. The Executive Aviation Terminal at Seattle International was a different world from the main passenger terminals. No crowds, no security lines, just a quiet building with leather furniture and coffee that actually tasted like coffee. I parked my modest Honda Civic between a Tesla and a Mercedes, feeling slightly ridiculous. The receptionist looked up as I entered. Her smile professional but cautious. My jeans and flannel shirt clearly weren't the usual uniform of private aviation clients. I'm Brock Harrington, I said. I have an appointment with James. Of course. He'll be right with you. Can I get you anything while you wait? I was about to decline when James appeared. A man in his 40s wearing an expensive suit that fit perfectly. The kind of professional polish that commanded respect. Mr. Harrington, James Mitchell, thank you for coming in. His handshake was firm, his manner courteous, but reserved. I could see him taking in my appearance, making calculations about whether I was a serious client or someone who'd waste his time. I understand you're interested in charter service to Hawaii, he said, leading me to a private conference room. When are you looking to travel? Thursday morning. I need to arrive in Honolulu by early afternoon. That's quite short notice. May I ask the nature of your trip? I leaned back in the leather chair, studying his face. Family business. I need to make an impression. I see. For Hawaii, we have several aircraft options available. The Citation X Plus is our most popular choice for that route. What's the fastest you have? James's eyebrows rose slightly. The Gulfstream G650 is our flagship aircraft. It can make the journey non-stop in about 5.5 hours. Very comfortable. Seats up to 14 passengers. Cost for Thursday departure and return the following week. You're looking at $70,000. I reached into my wallet and pulled out my black American Express card, placing it on the table between us. James's entire demeanor shifted. I'll take it, I said simply. Excellent. His voice carried new respect, new attention. Let me pull up our availability and get some details from you. For the next hour, we planned every aspect of the trip. Departure time, 9 a.m., giving me plenty of time to arrive after Emily's family had settled in. Catering, simple but elegant, though I'd barely eat anything. Ground transportation, helicopter transfer directly to the Grand Pacific Resort. The helicopter will land on the resort's private pad, James explained, his fingers flying over his tablet. Very dramatic arrival if that's what you're looking for. It is. We'll need to coordinate with the hotel's concierge. Do you have reservations there? Being arranged. The presidential suite. James nodded, as if this were perfectly normal, though I caught the slight widening of his eyes. Of course. We'll have ground transportation waiting at the helicopter pad to take you directly to the hotel. The paperwork was surprisingly straightforward. Credit card authorization for $70,000. More than many people made in a year. Charged as casually as a grocery bill. Flight manifest. Contact information. Emergency protocols. Is there anything else you need? Mr. Harrington, James asked as we concluded the arrangements. Privacy. I don't want my family to know I'm coming until I arrive. Understood. Discretion is one of our core services. I walked out of that building feeling like I'd shed a skin. The respectful nods from the staff, the VIP treatment, the casual acceptance of spending more on a single flight than most people spent on a car. It reminded me who I really was underneath the modest exterior. Driving home. My phone buzzed with confirmation messages. Flight itinerary, hotel arrangements from Marcus, helicopter transfer confirmation. Each notification made the plan more real, more irreversible. Emily and David thought they knew me, thought they could dismiss me as a poor old man who couldn't afford their expensive lifestyle. They had no idea they'd just guaranteed themselves a lesson they'd never forget. I pulled into my driveway, looking at the small house that had been my refuge for the past 3 years. It was still home, still comfortable, but it no longer felt like a hiding place. Thursday morning, I would step out of that helicopter onto the Grand Pacific's private landing pad, and Emily would discover exactly how wrong she'd been about her poor father. The only question now was whether she'd learn anything from the experience, or if this would simply be the most expensive "I told you so" in family history. Either way, it was going to be worth every dollar. 2 days passed in quiet preparation. I folded clothes methodically, arranged my travel documents in the leather portfolio Margaret had given me years ago, and double-checked my flight confirmation for the 3rd time. The suitcase lay open on my bed like a promise. Casual vacation shirts, comfortable walking shoes, the kind of wardrobe a man takes on a real vacation. Not the desperate scheme Emily imagined. The sound of car doors slamming in my driveway cut through the peaceful afternoon. Then footsteps on the porch, confident and familiar. Before I could reach the front door, I heard the click of a key in the lock. "Dad? Are you home?" Emily's voice carried that particular tone of someone who expected to be alone. I emerged from the bedroom, travel documents still in my hand, just as she rounded the corner with 2 large shopping bags. Her eyes went immediately to the suitcase visible through my doorway, then to the papers in my hand, and her face transformed. "What is that?" The bags dropped from her hands, contents spilling across my hardwood floor. Are you seriously planning to follow us? Good afternoon to you, too, Emily. I set the documents on the hall table. I'm taking a vacation. A vacation. Her voice climbed an octave. Dad, this is insane. You cannot follow us to Hawaii. You cannot stalk our family. I'm not following anyone. I planned my own trip to Hawaii. The same week we're there. What a coincidence. She kicked at one of the fallen items, a beach towel I'd bought her years ago. This is beyond inappropriate. You're trying to ruin our family time. I leaned against the doorframe, watching her pace my small living room like a caged animal. Emily, the Pacific Ocean is quite large. I'm sure we can both enjoy it without crossing paths. Don't be ridiculous. Hawaii isn't that big, and you know exactly where we're staying. God, what will David's parents think? What will people say about you showing up like some desperate old man who can't take a hint? Her hands flew through the air as she spoke, punctuating each cruel word. It's pathetic, Dad. You're too old for this kind of behavior. And frankly, you're too poor to afford whatever sad little trip you're imagining. The familiar sting of her words had less power now. I smiled. I can afford exactly what I need. Emily's laughter was sharp, brittle. Really, with what money? Dad, you live in this tiny house. You drive a 15-year-old car. You shop at Goodwill. Let's not pretend you're taking some luxury vacation. What did you do? Book a hostel. Find some discount motel near the airport. Something like that. This is embarrassing for everyone involved. Cancel whatever pathetic arrangements you've made. If you show up in Hawaii while we're there, I swear we'll leave immediately. We'll cut our vacation short rather than deal with this stalking behavior. I walked to the window, watching a neighbor tend his garden. The afternoon light caught the roses Margaret had planted, still blooming after all these years. I understand you feel strongly about this. I feel strongly about not being humiliated. David's parents are lovely people, and they don't need to see this kind of dysfunction. They don't need to witness you following us around like some lost puppy. I won't be following anyone around. Then cancel your trip. No. The simple word hung in the air between us. Emily stared at me as if I'd grown a second head. No, Dad. I'm not asking. I'm telling you. Cancel whatever ridiculous plans you've made or I'll never speak to you again. That would be unfortunate. I turned back to face her. But it wouldn't change my travel plans. Her face flushed red. Fine. Don't come crying to me when you get stranded somewhere with no money and no way home. Don't call me when your discount hotel turns out to be a dump, or when you can't afford food, or when you realize you're in way over your head. She grabbed her bags, shoving the spilled items back inside with sharp, angry movements. I'm done trying to protect you from your own poor judgment. If you want to make a fool of yourself, go ahead. Just don't expect any help from us when it all falls apart. The front door slammed behind her with enough force to rattle the windows. I watched through the glass as she threw her bags into the BMW's back seat, her movements sharp with fury. The engine revved aggressively as she backed out of my driveway, tires squealing slightly on the asphalt. The house settled back into silence. I returned to my bedroom, picked up the travel documents from the hall table, and resumed my packing. Emily had just provided the perfect final test of her character, and failed even more spectacularly than I'd expected. Tomorrow morning, I would step aboard a private jet worth more than her house. But tonight, I had suitcases to finish. The evening quiet felt different after Emily's explosive visit. I completed my packing with methodical precision, checking off items from the list I'd written: medications, casual clothes, the good watch Margaret had given me for our 25th anniversary. everything folded and arranged in the leather suitcase that had traveled with me to business meetings across 3 continents. My phone rang as I zipped the main compartment closed. The caller ID showed a name I hadn't expected. Michael Clark. Brock, how are you feeling tonight? Any better? I paused. Phone pressed to my ear. Better, I'm sorry. Michael, what do you mean? Oh. A long silence. Emily told us you've been quite ill. She said you've been to several doctors, that you're on new medications. I was calling to see if there's anything Martha and I can do. Groceries, errands, anything at all. The room seemed to tilt slightly. Emily had told them I was sick. That's very kind of you to call, I managed, my mind racing through the implications. She mentioned you've been having some dizzy spells, that you're too weak to drive some days. We were so worried about you being alone in that house. Are the new medications helping at all? I sank into my armchair, staring at the packed suitcase visible through my bedroom doorway. Emily hadn't just excluded me from their vacation. She'd created an elaborate fiction about my health to justify it, to make herself look like the caring daughter protecting her fragile father. I'm having some good days and bad days, I said carefully, adopting a slightly weaker tone. Of course. Martha wanted me to tell you that we're keeping you in our prayers. And please don't hesitate to call if you need anything at all. We could bring dinner by sometime this week or help with any heavy lifting around the house. The genuine warmth in his voice made Emily's deception even more sickening. Michael was a good man, worried about someone he thought was suffering, while his daughter-in-law painted me as helpless and declining. You're very thoughtful, Michael. I appreciate that more than you know. Well, you just focus on getting better. Emily says the doctors are optimistic. But these things take time. We understand completely why you can't join us in Hawaii. The travel would be too much strain right now. There it was. The perfect excuse for my absence, wrapped in concern and medical necessity. Yes, the doctors did recommend staying close to home, I said, amazed at how easily the lie rolled off my tongue. Smart thinking. Hawaii will still be there when you're feeling stronger. Maybe next year when you're fully recovered. After he hung up, I sat in the growing darkness, not bothering to turn on the lights. Emily's deception was more elaborate than I'd imagined. She hadn't just rejected me cruelly. She had crafted an entire narrative that painted her as the devoted daughter caring for her ailing father, the victim instead of the villain. I wondered who else she'd told. How many people in our extended circle now pitied poor Emily, burdened with a sick father she couldn't possibly include in family activities? How many sympathy cards might I expect? Or concerned phone calls from family friends I hadn't heard from in months? The anger that hit me was different from the hurt I'd felt during our dinner confrontation. This was cold, calculating fury. Emily hadn't just been cruel. She'd been strategically cruel, covering her tracks with lies that made her look noble. But she'd also handed me an unexpected gift. When I appeared in Hawaii, healthy and confident, stepping off a private helicopter onto the resort's landing pad, her deception would unravel spectacularly. Everyone would see exactly what kind of person Emily really was. I picked up my phone and scrolled through my contacts, making mental notes of who might call in the coming days with well wishes for my recovery. Let them call. Let Emily's lie spread as far as she wanted it to go. The bigger the lie, the more spectacular its collapse would be. I carried my suitcase to the front hallway and set it by the door, ready for tomorrow's early departure. My phone buzzed with a final confirmation text from the car service. Pickup scheduled for 7 a.m. to Executive Aviation Terminal. Emily thought she was protecting herself with her fictional sick father. Tomorrow, she'd discover that some illnesses have very dramatic recoveries. The alarm clock was unnecessary. I woke at 5:30, my body electric with anticipation. This was the day Emily would learn that assumptions about people can be dangerously wrong. Coffee brewed while I showered and dressed. Khakis and a polo shirt. The kind of understated clothes that wouldn't draw attention until I wanted them to. I ate breakfast methodically. Steel-cut oats, fresh fruit, orange juice. Fuel for what would be a very interesting day. The car service arrived precisely at 7. A black sedan. Professional but not ostentatious. Driven by a man who simply nodded and loaded my suitcase without commentary. We drove through Seattle's quiet morning streets, past the neighborhoods where Emily lived her carefully curated life, toward the airport where my real life was about to begin. The executive aviation terminal was a different world from the main passenger building. No crowds, no lines, no harried travelers dragging oversized bags. Just quiet efficiency and understated luxury. The receptionist greeted me by name. "Good morning, Mr. Harrington. Your aircraft is ready for departure. Would you like coffee while we complete the final paperwork?" "That would be nice." She handed me a proper porcelain cup. None of those disposable airline cups. Filled with coffee that actually tasted like coffee. Real cream. Actual sugar. Served on a small silver tray. "Mr. Harrington," a woman in a crisp uniform approached. "I'm Captain Sarah Morrison. We'll be taking you to Honolulu today." She led me across the tarmac to where the Citation X Plus waited. Sleek and white in the morning sun. Not the largest private jet I'd seen, but substantial enough to make a statement. The kind of aircraft that cost more per hour to operate than most people earned in a month. "We'll have you in Honolulu by 2 local time," Captain Morrison explained as we climbed the air stairs. "Flight time approximately 5 hours and 40 minutes. The weather looks perfect for the entire journey." The interior was everything the sales consultant had promised. Cream leather seats that could fully recline. Polished wood trim. A cabin that could comfortably seat 8, but would hold only 1 today. The flight attendant, a professional woman named Janet, offered champagne for takeoff. "Just coffee for now," I said, settling into the leather seat that probably cost more than most people's cars. The takeoff was whisper smooth, Seattle falling away beneath us as we climbed into clear Washington skies. Below, I could see the neighborhoods where Emily and David lived their modest upper-middle-class lives, unaware that her poor father was looking down at them from 30,000 feet above. Janet served lunch on actual china, salmon with lemon and herbs, roasted vegetables, a small salad with vinaigrette that tasted homemade. I ate slowly, reading a Wall Street Journal while the Pacific Ocean stretched endlessly blue beneath us. "More coffee, Mr. Harrington. Please." This was how the other half lived. The half Emily thought I could never afford to join. No security lines, no cramped seats, no fellow passengers coughing and snoring. Just quiet luxury and professional service. The kind of travel where you arrived refreshed instead of exhausted. I thought about Margaret, how she would have laughed at the extravagance while secretly enjoying every minute. "You always did like to make a point dramatically," she would have said. "But sometimes people need to be shown, not told." My phone buzzed with a text from the hotel. "Welcome to Hawaii, Mr. Harrington. Your helicopter transfer is confirmed for 2:30 p.m. Departure from Honolulu International." Perfect timing. Emily's family would be well settled into their routine by now, probably lounging by the pool or exploring the resort. They wouldn't expect any surprises. They were about to get the biggest surprise of their lives. "Beginning our descent into Honolulu," Captain Morrison announced. "Beautiful afternoon for arrival." Through the window, I watched the Hawaiian Islands grow larger, emerald jewels set in azure water. Somewhere down there, Emily was enjoying her luxury vacation, secure in the knowledge that her poor father was homesick in Seattle, unable to afford anything more exciting than his living room couch. The landing was smooth as silk, the aircraft touching down on Hawaiian soil with barely a bump. As we taxied toward the private aviation terminal, I could see the helicopter waiting, a sleek machine that would complete my transformation from dismissed father to mysterious arrival. "Thank you for flying with us today," Janet said as I prepared to depart. "I hope you have a wonderful time in Hawaii." "I believe I will." The helicopter pilot was already running through his pre-flight checklist as I crossed the tarmac. In 20 minutes, I would be landing at the Grand Pacific Resort, stepping out onto their private helipad like a man accustomed to such transportation. Emily thought she knew who I was. She was about to discover she didn't know me at all. The helicopter swept over Maui's coastline, resort hotels strung along the beaches like jewels on a necklace. Below, I could see the Grand Pacific's distinctive architecture sprawling across pristine beachfront. Pools and gardens and tennis courts laid out like a miniature city. "Beautiful property," the pilot said through the headset. "You picked a good one." "So I'm told. But I wasn't going to the Grand Pacific. My reservation was at the Fairmont Kealani, 3 miles up the coast, far enough away to avoid accidental encounters, close enough for strategic positioning when the time came. The Fairmont's lobby was all polished marble and tropical elegance, the kind of understated luxury that whispered rather than shouted. The desk clerk's smile was professionally warm as I approached. "Mr. Harrington, welcome to the Fairmont Kealani. We have your oceanfront suite ready, and I see you've arranged helicopter arrival." "Very nice. Thank you. Everything went smoothly." "Excellent! Your suite includes concierge service, private beach access, and... Brock, my goodness, you look wonderful." I turned, my careful plans evaporating in an instant. Michael Clark stood 20 feet away, his face lit with genuine pleasure and surprise. Beside him, Sophia bounced on her toes with excitement. Grandpa, what are you doing here?" My mind raced through possibilities. Maintain the 6th story, pretend to be someone else. But Sophia was already running toward me, her arms outstretched for a hug I couldn't refuse. "Hello, sweetheart," I said, lifting her into an embrace while my thoughts scrambled for an explanation. Michael approached, his expression puzzled but delighted. "Brock, this is incredible. You look so much better than Emily described. Are you feeling stronger?" "Much better. Thank you." I set Sophia down, forcing my voice to carry just a hint of recovered weakness. "The doctors were encouraged by my recent progress. But what brings you here? Hawaii seems like quite a journey for someone who's been so unwell." "Think fast. The specialist recommended a change of climate, something about sea air and relaxation being beneficial for my condition." Michael nodded sagely. "Of course. And what perfect timing. We're here too." My stomach dropped. "You are..." "Oh, yes. Though not by choice. I'm afraid. Terrible problems at our original resort. Plumbing disaster in the entire tower. If you can believe it. Management moved our whole party here as compensation. Quite an upgrade. Actually, the service has been exceptional." Sophia tugged at my shirt. "Grandpa, are you staying here, too? Can we swim together? Mom said you were too sick to come with us." "Well," I said carefully, "I'm feeling much better now." The elevator chimed across the lobby, and my heart sank further as Emily's voice carried across the marble floor. "Sophia, don't wander off like that." Her words died as she spotted me. For a moment, her face showed pure shock, then quickly rearranged itself into a brilliant smile. "Dad, what a wonderful surprise." The transformation was remarkable. Within seconds, Emily had shifted from whatever mood she'd been in to the picture of a delighted daughter. She hurried toward us, David trailing behind, looking confused. "I can't believe you're here. You look so much better." She reached me and gave me a kiss on the cheek, her grip on my arm just tight enough to be a warning. "What a lovely surprise for all of us," Michael beamed. "Isn't it wonderful just this morning? I was worried about Brock being home alone. And now here he is, looking healthier than I've seen him in months." "Yes," Emily said, her smile never wavering. "It's amazing, Dad. We should talk. Catch up properly." "Of course," I nodded to Michael. "Perhaps we could continue this conversation later. I should get settled in my room." "Absolutely. We're having drinks by the pool at 6 if you'd like to join us. The whole family's here. Martha will be thrilled to see you looking so well." As Michael and Sophia headed toward the restaurant, Emily's smile evaporated. She moved closer, her voice dropping to a fierce whisper. "What the hell are you doing here? I told you I had vacation plans. This is insane. Dad, you followed us here. This is stalking behavior. Emily, I had no idea you'd be at this hotel. Your arrangements were at the Grand Pacific. Remember. Don't play dumb. You somehow found out we were moved here. And you," she paused, studying my face. "How did you afford this place? How did you afford to get here?" I smiled the same mysterious smile that had unsettled her in Seattle. "I managed how, Dad. This hotel costs $1,000 a night. A flight from Seattle is $2,000 minimum. You don't have that kind of money." "Don't I?" Her eyes narrowed. "Are you having some kind of breakdown? Because this fantasy about being able to afford luxury travel is genuinely concerning. Did you max out credit cards? Take out some predatory loan?" "Nothing like that." "Then explain it. Explain how you—" She stopped as David appeared at her elbow. "Everything okay here?" David's tone was carefully neutral, but his eyes held suspicion. "Everything's fine," Emily said quickly. "Dad was just telling me about his travel arrangements." David looked me up and down, taking in my casual clothes and modest appearance. "Yeah. How did you get here?" "Brock fly coach and take the bus from the airport." "Something like that?" "Well," David said with barely concealed smugness, "I hope you're not expecting us to cover any of your expenses while you're here. We budgeted for our family, not unexpected additions." "I wouldn't dream of it." Emily grabbed David's arm. "We should let Dad get settled. I'm sure the travel was exhausting for someone in his condition." As they walked away, I heard David's voice carry back. "I still don't understand how he afforded this place. Something doesn't add up." If only he knew how right he was. The hotel restaurant's breakfast buffet was nearly empty when I arrived the next morning. Fresh pineapple, perfectly scrambled eggs, coffee that tasted like it had been grown on the islands, a far cry from the instant coffee I'd been drinking at home. I chose a table by the window, watching the ocean waves roll endlessly toward shore. "Brock, how are you feeling this morning?" Michael approached with a plate of fruit and a concerned expression. I gestured to the empty chair across from me. "Much better. Thank you. The sea air seems to be helping." "Wonderful to hear." He sat down, then hesitated. "Brock, I hope you don't mind me asking, but Emily mentioned you might be having some memory issues, some confusion about finances." I set down my coffee cup carefully. "Did she?" "She's worried about you. Yesterday, she said your trip here might be a sign of, well, deteriorating judgment. She mentioned you've been confused about money lately, making poor financial decisions." The pineapple turned sour in my mouth. "I see. She loves you. You know, we all do. If you're struggling with cognitive changes, there's no shame in that. People get help for these things all the time. I smiled, the same enigmatic smile that had been unsettling Emily for days. I appreciate your concern, Michael. I really do. After breakfast, I decided to walk the resort grounds. The pathways wound through tropical gardens, past multiple pools where families splashed and laughed. I found myself near the main pool area when familiar voices drifted from a secluded cabana. Getting worse. You saw how confused he was about the hotel costs. Emily's voice carried clearly across the water. Maybe we should have left him in Seattle, David replied. He's becoming too much of a burden. I moved closer, hidden behind a screen of palm fronds. The trip here proves he can't make rational decisions anymore. Emily continued. David, I think we need to seriously consider assisted living. Something with memory care. Would he agree to that? He doesn't have to agree. We can get guardianship if we prove he's not competent. Then we can make the financial decisions for him. What about his house? We'll have to sell it. Use the money for his care. It's not worth much, but it'll help with the facility costs. My blood ran cold. They weren't just planning to abandon me. They were planning to take legal control of my life. What about his, day-to-day stuff? David's voice dropped. His doctor appointments, his mail, his bills. We'll handle all of that. It'll be easier once we have guardianship. We can set up power of attorney, manage his finances properly. The poor guy probably doesn't even understand what's happening to him. That's what makes it sad, but also what makes it necessary. I stepped backward, my heart hammering. The scope of their betrayal was breathtaking. Not only had they rejected me cruelly, lied about my health, and planned to institutionalize me, they were plotting to take legal control of my life and assets. If only they knew those assets included over $20 million they'd never see. I retreated to my suite, my mind racing. On my laptop, I researched guardianship laws, confirming what I'd suspected. Without proper legal protections, adult children could indeed gain control over an elderly parent's life if they could prove incompetence. Fortunately, my financial advisors had insisted on comprehensive legal safeguards years ago. Powers of attorney, advanced directives, competency evaluations, all designed to prevent exactly this kind of family coup. But Emily and David didn't know that. They thought they were plotting against a helpless old man with a modest house and a tiny savings account. Tomorrow was my departure day. Tomorrow they would learn exactly how wrong they'd been about everything. I opened my phone and sent a text to my pilot. Departure confirmed for 2 p.m. Please ensure everything is perfect. The reply came immediately. Absolutely. Mr. Harrington, we'll be ready. Emily thought she was protecting herself from an embarrassing father. Instead, she was about to experience the most embarrassing moment of her life. The next 2 days passed in a careful dance of avoidance and observation. I timed my meals and pool visits to minimize contact with Emily's family, watching from a distance as they enjoyed their luxury vacation, the same vacation they deemed me too poor to afford. Yesterday afternoon, I'd encountered Sophia and Jacob at the hotel's game room while their parents were at the spa. The children had rushed toward me with genuine excitement. Grandpa, want to play air hockey with us? We missed you at dinner last night, Jacob added. Mom said you were tired. I'm feeling better today, I said, accepting Sophia's challenge at the game table. Tell me about your vacation. What's been your favorite part? The snorkeling. Sophia's face lit up. We saw sea turtles, and Jacob learned to body surf. That sounds wonderful. Are you having fun with your grandparents? Grandpa Michael taught me to play poker, Jacob whispered conspiratorially. But don't tell Mom. I laughed despite everything. These children were innocent in all of this. Whatever happened tomorrow, I would ensure they weren't hurt by their parents' mistakes. Grandpa, Sophia said quietly, are you really sick? Mom keeps telling people you're sick, but you seem fine to me. What do you think? I think you're sad, but not sick. Sad. Different sad. Children saw truth that adults missed or chose to ignore. This morning, I'd had breakfast again with Michael and Martha. They'd insisted on including me in their beach walk, their kindness a sharp contrast to their daughter-in-law's cruelty. Brock, you seem so much stronger than Emily led us to believe, Martha said as we walked along the water's edge. Are you sure you're taking all your medications properly? I'm being very careful about my health, I replied, which was true in ways she couldn't imagine. Good. We were so worried when Emily told us about your condition. But seeing you here, enjoying yourself, it's reassuring. Michael nodded. Maybe the doctors were too pessimistic. You know how they can be. I thought about Emily's elaborate lies, the fictional illness she'd created to justify her cruelty. Soon, very soon, the truth would be impossible to ignore. That evening, I finalized my departure arrangements. The private jet would be ready at 2 p.m., just as Emily's family prepared to leave for their commercial flight. The timing would be perfect, public enough for maximum impact, but not so public as to humiliate the children. I also made one additional arrangement. If Sophia and Jacob wanted to fly home with me on the private jet, they could. A special treat for two innocent children who'd been caught in their parents' deception. My phone buzzed with a text from Emily. Dad, we're leaving tomorrow at 3 p.m. Are you feeling well enough to travel? We could help you get to the airport if you need assistance. The fake concern in her message was almost laughable. I texted back, Thank you. I have my own arrangements. Her response came immediately. Are you sure the airport can be confusing? And with your condition, I'll be fine. Tomorrow, Emily would discover that her confused father had planned every detail of this encounter with the precision of a military operation. She would learn that assumptions about people could be very dangerous. I packed my suitcase for the final time, leaving out the clothes I'd wear tomorrow. Something casual but dignified, the kind of outfit a millionaire might wear while traveling on his private jet. The last test was over. Emily had failed spectacularly. Now came the reckoning. The hotel lobby bustled with checkout chaos as I descended with my single suitcase. Emily's family clustered near the concierge desk, coordinating taxi arrangements for their commercial flight. Dad, perfect timing, Emily called out with artificial brightness. My car should be here soon, I said, checking my watch. Emily frowned. Car, aren't you flying home? I have alternative arrangements, David smirked. Please tell me you didn't book some sketchy discount airline. Through the windows, a black town car appeared. The uniformed driver approached the desk. Harrington party. That's me, I said. Emily stared at the luxury vehicle. Dad, that's expensive car service. Actually, my pilot is expecting me. The lobby froze. David laughed harshly. Your pilot, Brock. This isn't funny. I turned to the children. Would you like to see Grandpa's airplane? You have an airplane? Sophia's eyes widened. I do. Want to ride home with me? Emily's face went pale. This is unrealistic. You don't have an airplane. Let's see, I said simply. 20 surreal minutes later, our convoy arrived at the executive aviation terminal. Through the windows, my Citation X Plus gleamed on the tarmac. Crew at attention. Silence. Then Emily whispered, Oh my God. David's jaw dropped. That's a $70 million airplane. I charter it, I said, stepping out. More economical. Captain Morrison approached. "Good afternoon, Mr. Harrington. Ready for departure?" As we climbed the aircraft stairs, Emily called desperately, "Dad, wait. Could we possibly, is there room?" I turned, remembering her words. "You're too poor to pay for a ticket." "Emily," I said gently, "I'm afraid you're too poor to afford this flight." Her face crumpled. "I'm sorry. So sorry. Some lessons are learned through experience." The door closed on Emily and David standing helplessly below, watching their poor father taxi away with their children waving from windows. In Seattle, when I had already unpacked all my things and had a little rest, I heard the sound of a car door slamming from the street. Emily's family had arrived, their faces grim with determination. Emily burst through my door, eyes red with fury and tears. "We need to talk now." After sending the children to wash up, Emily sank into my armchair. "The private jet, the money, explain everything." I settled on the couch. In 2019, I sold my technology company for $20.5 million. Complete silence. 20 million, Emily repeated slowly. Current net worth, 22 million. David collapsed onto the couch. "You're a millionaire. Several times over. I lived modestly because your mother believed wealth changes people. She wanted me to discover who loved me for myself." Martha spoke first. "Emily told us you were sick, having financial problems. I was never sick. That was Emily's story." Emily's face went white. "Dad, you told everyone I was confused, needed supervision. You planned assisted living, guardianship over my finances." Michael's face flushed with anger. "Emily, you lied to us." "I thought he was broke," Emily protested. "Maybe developing dementia." "So, you decided to control his life." Martha's voice was sharp. I raised my hand for silence. "Emily, you judged my worth by appearances. You rejected me cruelly, lied about my health, planned to institutionalize me." "I'm sorry, so sorry. I forgive you, but forgiveness doesn't eliminate consequences." I looked at her steadily. "I've revised my will. Your inheritance goes to Sophia and Jacob's education trust. They'll receive it at 25 if they demonstrate proper values." Emily began crying. "You're cutting me out. I'm ensuring the money builds character, not just bank accounts." David finally spoke. "I was wrong about everything. I'm sorry. Thank you. I accept your apology." The children emerged. Sensing change, Sophia asked, "Grandpa, are you rich?" "I'm comfortable, sweetheart." Emily wiped her eyes. "Could we rebuild our relationship? Could you teach me to be better?" I smiled genuinely for the first time in months. "I like that very much." After they left, my phone rang. "Emily, thank you for the lesson, for forgiveness, for giving me a chance. You're welcome. I love you." "I love you too. Next time, maybe just tell me directly." I laughed. "I'll consider it." Justice served with mercy, worth every dollar spent. As the echoes of that family reconciliation faded, I reflected on how one simple act of revelation could mend broken bonds. Justice had been served with mercy, and every dollar spent was indeed worth it. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Share your impressions in the comments below. What did you think of Emily's lesson? Or perhaps you have a similar tale from your own life. Drop your thoughts, and let's exchange more ideas. Feel free to ask questions for deeper discussions. Your interactions keep this channel alive and engaging. To hear the next story, click on the box to the left. Thank you for listening.